Hey, what's going on, Rob? You know who it is. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympian Multimedia, offering you another segment of A Way with the World. And as you can see, we're in our virtual studio today, and we have a special guest today. I'm definitely been looking forward to this interview. We've been trying to put this together for some time. A very talented author and poet. Um, we're going to be highlighting her accomplishments as being that she is a published, author and poet. And we're going to be talking about different elements of her poetry, along with speaking on various aspects of her book. She did publish a first book in 2017 entitled Short Circuit, An Epileptic Journey. But we're going to be concentrating more on her second book, which is Unexpected System Error, Poetry from the Hospital. So I want you guys to welcome author poet from Queens, New York, Miss Alyssa D'AMICO. How are we doing today, Miss D'AMICO?
I'm doing really well. I'm ready for this interview. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. It's definitely an honor and a privilege to have you here. You're very well renowned, coming from New York, being part of all kinds of different types of events. Um, Definitely want to pick your brain just a little bit, just for the viewers out there, those who are aspiring to become authors, to kind of get some insight. In your situation is very unique because you're writing from a very personal experience. So I think for you viewers out there who are trying to find some type of inspiration to go about what you're writing, um, I think this segment would definitely do you wonders. So why don't we get right into it? So the basis for your writing is poetry. So I know for me, poetry is such a fascinating way of writing and a way of expressing oneself. So with your thoughts and with your feelings, but doing it in a very thought provoking way. So, what is it about poetry that allows you to convey your thoughts vividly and invoke these deep emotions in each of your passages?
I started writing poetry when I was 6, at first diagnosed with epilepsy. When first diagnosed, I had fear and I was flabbergasted, a little angry. But then after my mother and made me know that there was nothing different about myself, as well as my karate teacher, because winners never quit, quitters never win. I choose to be a winner. And my class and friends still accepted me for who I am, but not for what happened. I got the talent of poetry from the diagnosis. And when I started to write poetry, the feelings of each word were able to be let out. Whether it was negative or positive point of time, love or hate, trauma, or maybe a fantastic point of time, it still helped to portray and help myself with my emotions.
Very good point. And I like how you mentioned about speaking in terms of the good and the bad. You know, sometimes with writers, they tend to just kind of just concentrate on the good, not be so negative, not be so borderline depressing. But that's just the novelty of life, right? You know, not everything works out to our advantage. Certain situations that we get into, even though uh, it might have a negative tone to it, we can learn from that. Those are lessons that we can learn from that. And that would be a great way to kind of incorporate that in your writing because somebody else could actually resonate with what you're going through. And that could be a big help in a way of uplifting them by you putting that into your book. So I'm very glad that you brought that point up. Um, it's all about being authentic and honest when it comes to your writing as well. You know, you really want to show your true form to your readers, especially for those who don't know you personally. So I've always been an advocate about putting a little bit of your identity within the book so people can kind of get an understanding of who you are as a person. What do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely right. Like, and some people, may want to write a similar type of poetry, but maybe they're not brave enough to get public. But each piece of poetry is a story of our life, if not an imagination.
Very good point. So I know with me personally, just being a very avid reader, I love to read from like knowing that it's coming from a personal experience. Not to say I don't like fiction and something based on someone's imagination. But I definitely take a lot more when it comes to my writing when I know it's coming from more of a personal place. And reading it and seeing how I can kind of some way subject that into my life. There might be some things in there, like I mentioned before, that you can resonate with, and then that can inspire you into your next writing or whatever concept that you want to write about. So why don't we use that as a segue to kind of get more into that? So how about you explain to the viewers your process in developing your poetry? Is your method more structured or is it more freeform?
Concerning Short Circuit and Epileptic Journey, my first book, it was more structured with specific poems, and especially singing a song based on side effects of phenobarbital, but it had to be in a specific order, and specific things had to be said about myself in between as well. And so there was focus on a lot of the medication poems that are in the first book, as well as my third brain surgery, making sure that it was well put together with the surgical part, and maybe a few other things. But yeah, I did it not regularly, freelance too.
Okay. For you viewers out there, the reason why we brought that up is because we definitely want to obviously encourage you guys to go about putting your manuscript together, putting your poetry together, and putting your book out. But you got to find what works for you. For me personally, go ahead.
One thing I will say is Unexpected System Error. Most of those poems are more freelance than structured, except for maybe ones that the medication levels are going high. I concentrate a little more, but other than that, it was
okay.
The opposite.
So that's a good point that you're making, and I hope your viewers kind of take that in. There's really not a wrong way to approach when it comes to your process for writing. For some people, they tend to be a lot more focused, a lot more linear when it comes to their writing form. So they might want to approach it more structured as they're going about putting their poetry together, or putting their writings together. Whereas ones, they kind of just base it off of emotion, whatever thoughts come up, they kind of base things off of that. Or that could make it be a little bit more freeform. Or you can, like you said, with your newer book, you use kind of like a combination of both. So for you writers out there, kind of keep that in mind as well. There's no wrong way as far as your approach toward your writing process. Just find the one that fits you the most so that you can put out the best book possible. So I know you have a very immense passion for writing and poetry. I'm just trying to keep up with you because I see on social media you're always here at this event, a lot of spoken word events, open mic nights. And obviously you published your 2 books. So what made you want to share your art with the world? I mean, did you have any kind of fears or anxieties that you had to overcome?
I didn't have any kind of fear. I was at first putting a different manuscript together of how depressed I was. Then I got having this whole kind of different manuscript. Then a well-known epileptologist had epileptic poem. I write all types of poetry, people. Love, hate, trauma, every word that you can think of and every emotion you can think of. So epilepsy is just one. And I just so happened to have a poem, Epilepsy, quote unquote, published by a foundation that I know very well. And they were so proud of me. And a specific well-known doctor called me and said, Alyssa, continue to write that type of poetry. Continue to write poetry based on epilepsy. Never stop doing that. Your poetry is good. When I heard him say that, I thought and I said, I was going to put together a love book, but then again, and not love, whatever that whatever kind of book it was going to be, multiple emotional book. But let me put together from when I was diagnosed to now. So some poems were written in 1998 already. Other poems I came up with brand new. The newest poems in that book is 2017. One when I took an extra 16 of phenobarbital, because I used to do that when I was having my seizures are much more under control. If I had a seizure, something called a complex partial, which comes from one location of the brain, and it was on a more serious basis. I would want the extra 16 to make it not happen. That I was literally, instead of taking extra 16, I took extra 64 milligrams because there wasn't 16s. And I was really stoned. I was almost falling. I was falling asleep in chairs. I didn't understand what people were saying to me at points of time. And that poem is in that book. And that poem was the poem that I wrote 2017. Funkadelic, funky things in Funkadelic Studios. One of the last poems. But one thing I would like to say to full audience as well is, I may have said that, but there are many poems that are positive. What I say about my old book is, you do have poems about medicine, you do have poems about, my third surgery is a comedy, you guys. Come on. It is. Because I was awake. And I had seen my favorite band and my most cute boyfriend and my nickname and my favorite Eminem song. Then they played Eminem at the end. But then, in between life, whether you do or don't have epilepsy, you have to be able to move forward when bad things happen. And to block that past of what happened. It could be difficult, but everybody needs to find their own track.
Really good point. And I love how you still have this great attitude and great outlook despite what you're going through. For people out there who are dealing with different types of issues or disorders or anything of that nature, it's easy to fall into the abyss, so to speak. Fall into the darkness and kind of give up.
Exactly.
And not really find like that light at the end of the tunnel. So it's just great to hear from you that despite what you're going through, you found that positive. Someone encouraged you to kind of get into that, write about it. You're very talented. You should explore that type of artistry. And then for all of us and for people who are dealing with this disorder, it's to their benefit that they can resonate with someone who actually goes through what they went through as well.
Exactly. That's why I published both of these books. I would like for other people with any type of disability to notice you're not alone. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like you cannot leave the house. Just because a seizure will happen, even if it is generalized when the entire body does shake, sometimes you have to take a risk to have the happiness in your life.
Definitely. So I know personally you have a fan over here. I definitely checked out your book. Let me showcase this for the fans out there, for the audience out there. This is Unexpected System Error. For you guys out there, this is definitely one of the most unique books that I've ever read. Just based off the writing style that you use, Alyssa, within your book. Because the way the book is constructed with your poems, they're based off keywords that were given to you during your hospital visits by the personnel that you interacted with, which includes quotes that they've spoken to you, and you decided to share. You basically kind of elaborated and gave your own perspective on that. And then also, too, I thought it was pretty neat how the poems were arranged by year, when the word was given to you, and the individual who gave you the word. So let's discuss specifics of your book. And yes, guys, I'm being a little selfish here because I picked specifics that resonated with me the most. I love the whole collection as a whole, but there are certain passages within the book that I was very intrigued with. So let's start with the introduction. You had a quote or where you wrote in the beginning in your introduction. You stated, some of the poems betrayed the feelings of frustration and hopelessness at the situation. So could you explain to the viewers what you meant by that?
At points of time in my life, yes. Well, as I say in the introduction as well, that yes, I may have went in depressed, but the nurses would pick me up. One thing is sometimes I felt hopeless. When I was in 11th grade, when I was in 8th grade, I was wondering if I was going to be held back. I was wondering, am I going to go to high school? Am I going to go to college? Because of how much worse the seizures were back then, and how hospitalized I was. Indeed, not like it went down all the way until 2019. But there's so many different kinds. One point of time that for some reason I never forget, I felt hopeless. I had to go to the hospital. I believed to be taken off of Depakote. And when I got into the lobby of NYU Epilepsy Center, Medical Center, I sat down and I was hysterical crying. I didn't want to be there, although sometimes it just feels so normal that it's almost like being home, because of so many times I was in there in a psychological way. But I just remember crying and my mom trying to help me out. Another time when I told a specific doctor that was side effects of a medication that we were testing on me, what was happening. I remember I cried. Then she wanted me to be admitted to the hospital immediately because of the side effects that were happening. And it felt hopeless, as if none of those emotions would end. But then when I went back to New York Institute of Technology, after being in for at least a week, my friends and professors were saying, "Wow, Alyssa, you look so good. You look so much more happy than usual." I didn't know I was that depressed. See, but then other points of time, there isn't hopelessness. And as I say at the beginning, some people feel like it's a prison and get depressed. Instead of feeling as if this is a prison, give yourself something to do, such as poetry. Maybe I get my hands on some video games. And, video games always help emotionally on me. Well, but I'm talking about like just a simple jump on the big guy ones. Not but it's just, so if any of you ever need to go there and you start getting upset, depressed, worried, instead of overly thinking, find something that will help you. Factually speaking, writing is mental health for anybody, whether it's poetic or not.
Definitely. I tell people that all the time. I knew from a young age, very young age, that I loved to write. When back in school, grammar school, going to middle school and high school, the kids used to dread to do like the book reports and the essays and stuff like that. And I was clamoring because I'm like, this is right up my alley because I get to write and express myself. So a lot of times when I tell people, yes, naturally I'm a writer at heart and I enjoy to write, but also too is very therapeutic. I know for me personally, I'm not the greatest when it comes to not so much articulate, but like expressing my emotions, at least in a politically correct way. So when it comes to writing, you never got to worry about the notebook talking back to you, or you're going to end up having an argument, or you offended the notebook in any kind of way. The notebook is pretty much going to take all your pain, all your happiness, whatever emotions that you're feeling at that time. You have this freedom, this total freedom of expressing yourself in whatever shape or form. So that's the beauty of writing. And again, going back to what I said earlier, it's definitely an inspiration. You're an inspiration just for simply just taking that positive out of a negative and then using that emotions and the things that you were dealing with, harnessing that power into your writing, and look how successful that you came coming from that.
I'm very thankful for it. If you would like to know about the poem Emotions, is that what you're going to next?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the coffin. That's where I was heading at. Guys, that was the first one that really caught my attention. It's the 2005 word. It was Emotions, and then the poem is aptly entitled Emotions. I thought this was a outstanding um outstanding poem because you took these different emotions, you added this level of complexity, but still made it simplistic. So that's what really intrigued me with it. Just using all these different emotions that people tend to deal with on an everyday basis, no matter what their circumstances are. But then you wrote it in a way where it was simplistic. It's something that people easily can gravitate to. So, what was your thought process behind this one?
Two. I had the first. Some poems I write more than once unawareingly.
Yeah, me too.
With different years, different points in time. The first time I wrote this poem was I had my first boyfriend, and I felt so brokenhearted that he lived in Pennsylvania and I was in New York, and he said he was going to drive, but it didn't happen. And so my emotions weren't stable. Then, when I was in the hospital, once again, I had all these multiple emotions. And these multiple emotions together, it was like it made me once again write the same poem. And the only thing I can say in regard to that is sometimes you have to figure out what to do with your emotions, and that may have been a point of time that I felt hopeless. When I write a poem more than once, sometimes there are more lines in one, sometimes there are less lines, and sometimes there are new words.
Good point. I definitely like the metaphors that you use on here. Again, that level of complexity, but still making it simplistic. Like you had these parts on here where you said tension is being tied in knots. Hyper is like speed running all different ways. So it's just a great metaphors that you use there, but it was enough for people to easily understand what you're trying to convey with that. And again, these are emotions that people deal with. It wasn't like you wrote it in a way where it's just so over the top. Because sometimes people, when they express themselves, they tend to add like this very dense and in-depth level of complexity for what they're feeling. And sometimes it's really like not that complex. Whatever your thoughts is or feelings about a given situation, just spit it out. Just say it. You know, if you have to use some things as examples to try to get your point across, that's one thing. But I love the fact that you're very straightforward with your writing, but you wrote it in a creative way, in a different way, just to let readers get a little bit more perspective, especially with what were going through at the time. So let's move on to our next one that I thought was very intriguing. And it's on page 29 of your book. And it's the 2012 word giggle. And the poem is entitled the same, Giggle. And it's basically you're having like this conversation, I believe.
Well,
it seemed in my way that it was written in a way like you're having like a conversation. How about you explain to the viewers what your thoughts were?
I'll explain exactly what it's based on. So May 1st, 2012, at 7 o'clock in the morning, that was when my seizures became very active again. As I said in the speech, I was hospitalized twice for raising the medication to help it. I was then hospitalized in regard to the overtime seizure. Once per day it was happening from late 2011 to May 1st, 2012. The ketogenic diet is officially to control seizures, but me succeed with that to control seizures? No way. I was tested for a new medication back then, 2012, that can actually make a person go blind. But my eyes, sight, needing glasses, I may have contacts on, I didn't qualify. So I just specifically remember I was brought to the ER. And I don't remember vividly what happened in the ER. I just remember I got a CAT scan the next day. My epileptologist, Dr. Oren Davinsky, said, Alyssa, you will be getting a vagus nerve stimulator tomorrow. 7 o'clock in the morning. You need to stop being at so-and-so hour. And then I got done. And when I got done, there's the wire for it over here. Okay. And the wire goes down to where a pacemaker would be. And it's exactly a rectangle like a pacemaker would be, only thing it stimulates to control the seizures. So I had the nurses, and they came in after the surgery, and they're like, "Oh, Alyssa, so how do you feel?" After knowing me for at least 20 years then. I was like, I didn't answer. And my mom said, "She's not talking. She's afraid she's going to lose her voice." And
okay, yeah.
Really, you're not? Oh, come on. And they were doing these little questions that I put in there. And I asked them for food by text. And then later on when they got me speaking again, as you can tell, I'm talkative. When they got me speaking, oh yeah, you're speaking again, Alyssa. We didn't think you were going to speak. And I can very well vividly remember when they came to the door and when they were saying all their comments.
Wow. I mean, that's just an interesting experience, especially just dealing with what you were dealing with epilepsy. It can't. We might have touched base with it earlier, but is it hard in a way to like write about this, like the experience that you're going through with the epilepsy? Is it hard, or are there moments in time where you're kind of like, this is a little bit gut wrenching for me to kind of write this?
Usually not. Usually, even when I am in a hospital, besides writing poetry, I'll have like a 8-page diary
Wow.
because of how great the nurses that know me are
Okay.
there. And a lot of them are missing now, but because they retired, they're older, and the
Mhm.
changes of location. But they were there for me from when I was like 10 to 30 to be exact. And I'm happy of how much they helped on a mental and physical basis.
Well, it's great that you had a good network of people around you to help you and assist you with what you were going through. Um, and again, kudos to you for taking a situation like that and using that as a basis to express yourself. You know, at the end of the day, I'm always a very, we've been kind of elaborating this theme throughout this whole discussion about pulling from personal experiences. It's always key when it comes to writing. You know, you definitely want to um, showcase yourself, immerse yourself into your writing. And I think the basis for that is the things that you're going through. Because believe it or not, you're not the only one that's been through that. You know, depending on whatever your situation is, trust me, there's other people that have went through it as well. So I kind of keep that in mind too when it comes to my writing as well. You know, I tend to be very metaphoric in my writing, but a lot of what I write definitely comes from personal experiences. You know, it's just the way I think and the way I look at things. I just put a different spin on it. But with you, you're kind of in the same realm as well. You just did it in a very more creative way and in a way where people can pick up on it very quickly and really just get immersed
If you would like
with
to know
what you were
something
writing.
interesting, I have a new location to X for words. When I go to a specific bar, not far from me in Queens, and there's nobody there to really talk to, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go and ask somebody that I know for the word, or the bartender that I love. And I've written poems. I wrote one that was a love poem back when I had a specific boyfriend, and boy did everybody get on my case and certain things that I said on there. I wrote, yeah, 2 love poems that year. I wrote one about alcohol because I can't drink alcohol, so give me a beer, put one here. Brooklyn, that wait, there's that one that's made in Brooklyn or something. I say that wait, that's not where we live. And then I asked for something else like X or something, and I partially feel satisfied, but since it's such a realistically Irish pub, Irish coffee satisfies me at the end.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't sound too bad. Sounds like a good night. So let's move on to the next one that I thought was very interesting. It's on page 32 of your book, and it's the 2013 word dream. And the poem is entitled, What Could You Do?
What
So,
could you do?
what was your thought process behind this one?
what could you do is a point of time when I did feel hopeless, and when I did feel as if nothing would come true. As I say, what could you feel? What emotions did I feel? What could you do?
Mhm.
Was there anything to really help? What could I do? What could they do? What could you hear? To me, there was nothing hearable. What could you
Mhm.
see? I was blinded and could not see.
Indeed. I just like this part right here. I'm just going to read you for you viewers out there, just give you a snippet. There's a part here where you say, where you wrote, work impossible when there is nothing to carry on with. What could you say? There is no voice to hear. It is silent in every atmosphere. Empty balloons when something is trying to be said, which I thought was just a great analogy. Just your way of using metaphors. I mean, what is your thought process on that? How are you able to bring about these different analogies and metaphors to coincide with the message that you're trying to convey in your writing?
This one I may have wrote more not free, but structured,
Okay.
because what I remember is I had that notebook in front of me, and I was making sure to add and relay any erase things and change words. But then, and I had to think of what could you, and I wanted to get almost everything in. What could you do? What could you do over and over? Like, so I think I partially got this. Something makes me think of a specific friend who does poetry, and thinking of her, and then thinking of myself in the circumstance, and thinking of like, um, you know, to me that little image is Edward Scissorhand. Edward Scissorhand is a little different from the usual human, which I feel a little different than the usual person. But then I noticed that after Professor Tester said there's no such thing as a known human being by the ending of this list, you'll know what you have. He had ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
but he went to Columbia and Harvard. And having me do certain parts of his work made me notice, well, you know what? Yeah, there is nobody normal, but there are things that we always have similar to each other.
Very good point. Uh, and that was greatly conveyed in that poem. So let's move on to the next one that I found intriguing. It's on page 43 of your book, and the word is from 2014. The word is blue, and the poem is entitled Dimension.
Yes.
And again, very simplistic in his writing, but it felt very in depth as well, creating sort of like a world. You're encapsulating like this kind of world that we can go into, uh, emotionally and mentally. Explain to the viewers how you came about with this poem.
Well, the page before is Just a Delusion. In the
Right.
poem Just a Delusion, I explain how I'm feeling, as I know that the medication is getting too high on me. So, dimension. If phenobarbital levels get too high, it will I will have a delusion, as I say in singing a song, the introductions of Short Circuit and Epileptic Journey. It is, I feel like when if the levels are high, when a story is made up in my head, that it's my own little world. I'm in my dimension. And the withdrawal symptoms, nobody can feel these withdrawal symptoms but me. If the levels are ever too high, if phenobarbital is too high, you need to be hospitalized because of how dangerous it is. So about 7 days until they see that you are yourself in between the behavior and a withdrawal, and that not any serious seizures occur in between. So this whole thing, dimension, I can imagine myself feeling the withdrawal symptom, these weird feelings, getting psychiatric seizures, as I say in singing a song. A psychiatric seizure means that in real life there is no neuron abnormality; it's all psychological. And then all of a sudden, back to normal, more clear, more aware. But in real life, back then, I said, I feel no different. It's been so long. That's why I'm singing the song. I barely want to come off, if you know about it all, because I am medically addicted. Sometimes want more than needed, but today you could say sometimes want less than needed.
Yeah, I know when it comes to my writing, like some people, for you viewers out there, a lot of I operate Olympian Multimedia. So, but I also have a day job as well. So sometimes it can be a little bit overwhelming. It's basically kind of like balancing three lives, so to speak, versus my day job, operating the business, and then family life. Of course, you got to make time for the family. So I try to describe to people that writing is such a way for me to kind of escape the things that I'm going through, because at any given moment it feels like there's like 100 voices going off in my head, and they're all trying to like take control of me. Like, Zeus, you need to do this. No, Zeus, come over here. You need to do this. No, Zeus, you got to be this way. You got to go about doing it like this. So I feel like when I come to my writing, and once I start developing my poems, developing my concepts, the short stories, the noise seems to go down, so to speak, in my head, where I could kind of just have this tunnel vision and kind of focus a little bit more. And then, that allows me to kind of just be like, let all these thoughts out and, formulate them onto the paper as I'm putting together my poems and my manuscript. So, it's almost like it's like two people in one sometimes. At least I'm speaking for myself when it comes to my writing, as far as like kind of piggybacking what you're saying of like feeling like you're in this other world, this other dimension when it comes to, at least when it comes to your writing, to kind of just escape whatever it is that you're going through in life. We all need that, just for us to kind of stay sane. We need something to kind of just make us, like, as you mentioned earlier about like video games, some people use that medium of playing video games. I know I'm an avid gamer myself. It's nice to just have that outlet, whatever it is, so that you could just kind of just deal with your everyday life. So that's
If
a really
there's
good point.
somebody my age or your age, I'll tell you my video games that I play when I'm really angry.
Okay. What would that be?
Well, I still have a PlayStation 2. I know I'm a lame person, right? But my PlayStation 2 didn't stop working, so I buy a new one. I play State of Emergency. State of Emergency is a video game. You get to choose your character, and we are in such great condition right now. Oh, look, a burger, only $1.99. And then it says, emergency, people looting, murders, crooked cops. Somebody has to handle this. State of emergency. I always choose my most favorite guy. He just broke out of jail, and he looks really tall and muscular. You want it? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I know with me, just a quick side point when it comes to the gaming for you viewers. I'm more of like an open world. The weird thing is like you think when it comes to gaming, you will want something not so technical because it's a game. You know, you already deal with enough technical stuff in your real world, and with everything that goes along with that. But I tend to like dungeon crawler games, open world games. So I'm a big Diablo guy. I'm a big Assassin's Creed guy. I'm a big Elder Scrolls gamer as well. I know a lot of people look like, dude, you already do enough thinking in real life, and then you want to do these type of games where you got to solve puzzles and doing all that. But it seems to relax me. Even when I'm trying to find a way to kind of like get myself together, it's like I'm always like in think mode. So it's just like it's easy for me to gravitate toward them type of games, where it's like you got to solve puzzles and figure out certain things while you're out and about in the game. So,
and I feel like it's Mortal Kombat.
And I love Mortal Kombat too. You know what I mean? So you got to get out a little bit of an aggression. Mortal Kombat comes into play. It's a perfect game. Yeah, I definitely are with you with that, Alyssa. I'm definitely a Mortal Kombat guy. So, yeah, if I have a really bad day at work or just whatever happens during the day, yeah, that's a great game to just kind of unleash a little bit of the beast in you, as it were.
May I tell you something?
Sure.
I meant to during another answer. I am there are two books that I am going to one that I need to really work on. The other one, well, the poems are basically all copy and pasted together. I just need to figure out which ones I'm going to get rid of and exactly which order I want them in, because it's based on my ex-boyfriend. We were together for 2.5 years, but don't you love it when you find a man in a bed with somebody else?
Whoa, yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but I get what you're saying.
Obsessed with somebody. I mean, yes, I mean, but you get. But other than that, he didn't cheat in any other type of way, any loving or anything. So we made each other's lives so beautiful. But then I need to put the in-between argument, fights, my weird emotions. There's so much to that story. Let's just put it this way. Hey guys, watching this, I don't know it was the most romantic time for you, but I'll tell you my most romantic time. That is when me and him stepped outside of the window of the house that he lived in Manhattan, and we went against the wall, walking like 007, step by step, on the ledge, then sat, thinking how romantic it was, and what a view we had of, look at how small those people are. When I told my mom said, if you guys fell, we would have thought you committed suicide. I looked at her and I said, oh, don't worry, his brother was home. But I turned that entire thing into a poem. I mean, we didn't just sit there. There had to be a kiss or so. It was so romantic.
Nice for you hopeless romantics out there. That's something for y'all out there. It's a beautiful thing. Again, you're just taking simple experiences. We all been down that route, being in love, all the feelings and emotions that come with that, want to be with that person constantly. It's definitely something that, people can resonate with and understand very quickly. I don't know a single person that's never been in love, and it's a beautiful thing when you find somebody that you can really connect with. And there's a level of compromise between the two, and that you share in each other's interests and endeavors. It's just a beautiful thing.
The other book that I'm working on is an autobiography, because quite a few people told me to do that. Because
wow, that's a big undertaking.
Epilepsy is one part of my life.
Okay.
It's not my entire life. There's so many
Good
different
point.
parts of life.
Good
So
point.
I started it off and trying to work on it. As a friend said, if you write an autobiography, there's no need to attend college. All you have to do is drop out. You'll be a bestseller.
It's possible. Anything's possible, right? So I just want to put this last one in. Um, I was really tickled with this one, and really, this one really captured my attention the most. It's actually my favorite in your book. It's on page 56 and 57 of your book, and the
Oh,
word is imagination, which
hmm.
happens to be the title of the poem. The reason why I liked it is because you're just using the metaphors were incredible, but just using different types of elements. Like you discuss here about a dragon, you discuss about a time machine, traveling through a time machine. You talked about, you mentioned about a mutant walking the streets, a witch casting spells, robot protection, monster staring, explosions throughout the world, King Kong on my side, the devil coming up, fire flaming,
What?
God looking down, vampires all around. You speak about angels, a magic carpet, a genie. The list can go on and on. This was just incredible as far as what you put this together of just really outlining an imagination. But in the way, as I'm reading it, I kind of can really conform it to different elements of my life. So what was your mindset when you came across or put together this poem?
It was my true imagination.
I could say you got very, very avid, very vivid.
It wasn't, I wasn't upset. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything negative.
But
It was my imagination running wild. Um,
it was a very, when I'm reading it was a very like fun
well,
read. It
here.
was very fun, very engaging, you know. And sometimes, man, I know with me, when I go about my writing, I can sense page after page after page, it's very dark. It is very like kind of gloomy and such. Maybe that wasn't initially my intention, but sometimes, man, you just need to not so much stick to the script, so to speak. Sometimes it's just nice to just be fun. Just just
Yes.
write something that's fun, just something light. There's no real special complex message or whatever you're trying to convey in it. It's just something fun. It's just something I just want to put out. It's just something that I thought of at that time, and I just thought it would be just great and neat to go ahead and write. What do you think?
I think it's great too. And just imagination, I'm able to imagine that day very easily because it was the nurse practitioner that me and her were still in touch after she retired and after I stopped not
Nice.
needing to go to the hospital. And after she got to know me, like, so good, yeah, she always gave my word. She gave me imagination. And
Nice.
I gave her the poem Imagination. And she maybe even asked Alyssa, what made you write this? I said, my imagination.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's simple.
add on to that is the type of, there's a thing called an aura. An aura means that person knows when the seizure is going to happen. So I always know if a seizure is going to happen. A type of aura I got when it's a more serious, complex partial, possibly going unconscious. Complex partials go two ways. Either the person is impaired and can see, but not able to fully respond. And maybe since it comes from my left side, maybe my right eye will twitch. Or the right hand will twitch. Whereas it comes from the right side, that will happen to the left side. But what I will say
Mm-hmm.
is coming from this side is funny enough. I discovered on a scientific basis there's this specific part of the, I have temporal lobe epilepsy. There's a specific part of the temporal lobe I would call the hippocampus. The hippocampus is where my scar tissue was, but I literally don't have a hippocampus anymore. But if a person, female, gets epilepsy from that location, there's a probability 39 to 48% chance of them getting the poetry talent. And I just so happened to get that poetry talent. I may have started when I was young, but, never gave up throughout the years.
Well, we're definitely grateful that you pursued, again, taking that positive out of a negative, and you rose above it, and you went out and published 2 great books, and you're out and about doing these different events, getting the message out there, talking about something close to home, your personal experiences. There's a level of bravery in that, because it's not easy to go on to expressing yourself, not just through your published books, but doing these different events and talking about the things that you're going through. I know a lot of people, it's really hard for them to express themselves in that way and just discuss their feelings, discuss the experiences that they went through. So the fact that you're willing to do that speaks a lot about you and your character. And we definitely over here at Olympian wish you much blessings and success moving forward. So Alyssa, we're going to end this interview with, you touched base a little bit, going to be working on 2 book projects, but is there anything else you want to let the viewers know that is going to be new on the horizon for you? Is there anything else that they need to know?
Well, guys, there may be a probability, no definite, there may be a probability of me being a feature with NYU, in a sense. I will be finding that out. I know in all likelihood, I know Long Island I will be a feature. You heard how I speak. I put my speeches together and I say my poems along with it. If you would like to hear one poem before I stop, I can say one poem.
Definitely. Let's hear it.
This is a poem that I have memorized. It's from the new book. The old book, rather. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So he showed the old book is Short Circuit, an Epileptic Journey. And the new one is Unexpected System Error, as he showed you before. But this poem I remember much in depth. And I said I was on phenobarbital. It's about that drug.
Okay.
Pheno, chemical compound, barbital, barbiturate white crystalline powder used to sedate. Phenobarbital, an anti-epileptic, antidepressant, sedating, addictive medication. Overdoses can be fatal. I am medically addicted, sometimes when more needed. On it for 20,200 days, and it ain't over yet. I feel nervous today. Should I take an extra 16 or 64.5? What do you think? Pupils dilated, eyes watery, slightly sedated. But don't worry, it will digest. Do I want a drink? Only if willing to die. Or skip a dose, have a convulsive, and cause controversy. Man, I'm dizzy. Is it the medication or me? Somebody, give me a seat, a bite to eat. I'm shaking like a leaf. Fuzzy vision viewing double, like Vincent van Gogh. My memory is perfect, yet others say no. Side effects. And don't forget, you have an LD, learning disability. I will never agree. Imagination? Give me a golden medal. Daydreaming? You want to know what it was about? Should I turn to a poem or story? What do you think? And then Wait, did that really happen? I'm not sure. Hearing voices and song lyrics in my head. Is this an aura? Or am I going overdose? It can happen either way. After all, I'm only the second highest in the hospital I attend. Getting tired, falling asleep like a nocturnal animal at 4 o'clock in the day. Emotions disturbed, but not noticeable. Unsure of fact or fiction. Vocabulary going down. Then suddenly, a delusion. Time for the emergency room. What more is there to do? Lowering it just a bit. Feeling withdrawal symptoms. Psychiatric seizures occurring. But don't worry. Everything will be fine. Look, you're more clear, more aware, more quick. But in real life, do I feel any difference? It's been so long. That's why I'm singing the song. I barely want to come off of phenobarbital because I'm medically addicted, sometimes when more needed. And I will admit, guys, I don't get the dizziness anymore. And I don't get the, when I was cheating last year every now and then after a seizure, it's 16 milligrams because I don't take 64 milligrams anymore. So now I'm on the cheating, I'm on cheating basis of skipping 16 sometimes. Because, as you see, I know if a delusion may be starting, so I don't want it to happen. That is when I skip. But although I don't want to come off, because there has been points of time in my life that doctors really, you see, I may be 4'10.5" and 97 pounds, but weirdly speaking, no matter how tiny I am, since I'm 6, my body is able to hold more of that medication than the typical person. And the levels are able to be higher than the typical person. It just so happens to be. Doctors have tried to lower it at points of times, but if lowered and my brain did not want it to be lowered, then a generalized seizure will happen. And I will not, and the body will shake for me. But that is not a usual basis. Like I said, but maybe a right eye blink, a right hand can shake, my speech because it's from speech. But other than that, you just have to, a message I have for everybody in life is, I may have spoken about epilepsy in my first book a lot, and my second book is about the nurses giving me words, but there are very positive poems in there, and, you know, maybe upsetting ones here and there. In regard to both of those books, one thing you have to do is you have to move forward. You have to believe in yourself. No matter what you have or what happens, there are difficult times in life to find that thing called happiness. But sometimes you have to dig deep inside of yourself, even under the most serious of circumstances, and find that thing called happiness. It may not take immediate, but just remember yourself.
Couldn't have said it any better. You know, just being true to yourself and realizing that you don't need to pattern your life after someone else. You know, people tend to be too easily influenced by other people and things around them. They're thinking that they have to conform themselves to a certain type of way. when in actuality you're perfect and beautiful within yourself. You just have to see it for yourself. You know, somebody can sit here all day, every day, and tell you how great and awesome you are, but until you see it for yourself, you're pretty much going to just be in the starting point A, and never really moving forward, like what you were alluded to. So I love the positive message. I love the poem. I definitely love the poem because you mentioned my favorite artist, Vincent Van Gogh. He's my favorite artist, so that was always a plus right there. So, Alyssa, can you just explain real quick for the viewers who are interested in getting your book, Short Circuit or Unexpected System Error? Where can they go find this at?
One thing I'll say is Vincent Van Gogh had epilepsy too.
Yeah.
If nobody knew that. But
Yeah.
Book Unexpected System Error, which he was holding. Here, could you hold that up again?
Sure thing.
Unexpected System Error. You're able to right now buy that on Amazon. As said, I was given a word and challenged by faculty members, doctors, nurses, but I had to write a poem with that word in it.
Right.
Most of them were in a positive way. Love, not love. Just one based on Pleasantville, if any of you saw the movie. But just think of what a Pleasantville would be if all of us were happy and everybody got A's and everybody was employed the same day.
Yeah.
As I said in that poem.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have faith is something else. Yes. Forgive me if I say God in the poem, people. If you don't believe in God, that's fine.
But just again, for your two books, Short Circuit and Unexpected System Error, they can purchase that on Amazon, correct?
You can purchase either on Amazon by typing in the title of Unexpected System Error or Short Circuit Epileptic Journey. If you see my name is Alyssa D'AMICO, type in Alyssa D'AMICO. My books will come up.
Awesome. So you heard it right here, viewers. Do yourself a favor, support local authors, and go ahead and get Alyssa D'AMICO's new books, Short Circuit and Unexpected System Error. And also, too, just as a quick segue or just a quick thought, that we're just trying to encourage people to, let me see if I could put this up. We're encouraging people to read and to be inspired. If you can see that on there. So that's what, it was great talking with Alyssa, being a fellow poet and author. For you guys out there that are trying to go about becoming a published author yourself or a poet, get yourself out there. I know it could be a little scary at first, but try to put your fears to the side. There's definitely an audience out there for you. Just the main thing that we were having with this discussion, talk from experience. You know, after a while, you'll start finding your niche as a writer and start getting an understanding of what type of writing that you want to do and how you want to go about doing it. World building, different type of concepts that you come up with. But just use that as a pivot for your writing. Just express yourself that way. Talk about the things that you're going through. Talk about the things that you love. Talk about the things that are important to you. And definitely you will find audience out there. So, Alyssa, I appreciate you taking time and sitting down with me today. This was a great discussion, discussing your book. And you gave a lot of insight when it comes into epilepsy. So for our viewers out there that do suffer from this neurological disorder, I hope this was helpful and informative as well and encouraging. So, Alyssa, I just want to mention again, much blessings to you with everything that you're trying to accomplish. We look forward for your new books to come out, and hopefully we'll have you on the show again, and we can go ahead and talk about those new books as well.
You'll love me.
I'm already in love with your writing, so I that's pretty much goes without saying. I'm already ready to check out your new book, new stuff that you're going to be putting out. Definitely looking forward to it. So for you guys out there, you know who it is. It's Zeus Cruz of Olympian Multimedia with Alyssa D'AMICO. We appreciate you guys tuning in. And this was another segment of A Word with the World. And the only thing left to say is hey, we're going to check you later. Thanks.